Welcome back. We left off with Todd unable to register to our app because our backend server is not connected to any database. Luckily for us, Heroku also has Postgres. If I go to my dashboard here, and let's just go to Personal, and in this corner we have Data. We click on Data, and it says, hey, looks like you don't have any data stores yet. And we have Heroku Postgres, Redis, and Kafka. But Postgres is what we need, right? So let's create one. And we can just log in with the same credentials, the same thing that we had for our server. And we can simply just install Heroku Postgres. And look at that, it already knows which application we want to install it to. So let's click on that, click Continue. And now we just pick the Hobby Dev, which is free. We click on Provision. There you go. It says the add-on Heroku Postgres has been successfully installed. Check out the documentation to get started. That's awesome to hear. Let's open it up. And once again, they have amazing documentation of how we can set up everything. So looking at here, the first thing we want to run is Heroku add-ons to make sure that we actually have it. Let's go back to our server. I'm going to clear this and run Heroku add-ons. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. All right, we have Heroku Postgres. That's great. If we actually scroll down, we see that we can run the CLI with Heroku PG info. So let's do that. I'm going to say Heroku PG info. And it'll show that, yep, this is our Postgres. And we can connect to it by running PG PSQL, just like we did on our laptop. Let's do that. I'm going to say Heroku PG PSQL. And look at that, we're in our database. So let's recreate the database that we had originally. We can simply go back to our PSQL because PSQL is smart enough to remember our commands. And if we go to query, there you go, we have our create table commands already. So let's create a login table. Perfect. And let's create the user table as well, or users table. I'll copy this, go back to Heroku, and create table. Let's do \D to make sure that the tables are there. All right, we have our tables. And you see that the owner is, well, something completely different than my laptop. But there's one more key thing that we need to fix now. We have our tables, but my connection on my server is still referring to my localhost. How can I change this? If we exit out of this by doing \Q, and we do again Heroku PG info, we have the add-on, which might be the URL, but a better way for us to do this is to actually run Heroku add-ons. Yeah, it's the exact same one. This is the URL that they provide for us. So let's try this. If I do this Postgres within this URL, this database URL, in here, will it work? Let's find out. I'm going to, once again, git add. So we have to commit the changes. And I will say updating database. git push Heroku master. All right, it's deployed. Let's go back to our app and see if it works now. We have todd@gmail.com. I click register. We still get an error. If we go to console here and actually network and click register again, we have 400 bad request, unable to register. So let's take a look at the logs. If we do Heroku logs --tails. Oh, look at the error. Connects warning connection error. So it's not finding the host that we want. So let's go to our documentation to connecting to Node.js. And we see here that with the client, Postgres actually just gives us a database URL here. And we also need to have SSL true here. And you can read up on it a little bit more. But we can just copy this, remove all the database information, and within the host, we can say process.env.database URL. Let's save. We'll have to git add this again. Git commit, adding database connection, and we'll git push Heroku to master. And while this is loading, I really want to go through the fact that this is one of those things that you just have to read, and it's so platform specific that just because you learn this one way on Heroku doesn't mean it works on the others. But it's all a matter of just reading documentation and being comfortable with that. Let's do Heroku logs here to keep an eye on, make sure everything is working. Right, we have a port. So let's go back to our app. I'm going to close the console for now. Click register. And looks like it's still not working. If we open up the network, click register, we have the bad request. If we go back to the logs, we have a connects warning again, connection error. This is a good time to use another command, which is Heroku config. And Heroku config actually gives us the database URL. And this database URL, well, you see that they're using Amazon, AWS. But you see here in the connects warning that we're actually getting that link. So it looks like we need to actually use the connection string, exactly like they have told us. So we forgot to do that. Let's do connection string here. Oops. Let's copy this. Connection string. And now it's getting repetitive, but this is how a debugging session usually works. I'm just going to do a quick commit here. Git push Heroku master. All right, and let's give that another go. Let's actually try registering now. So we'll do Jenny. Jenny@gmail.com. We'll do 1, 2, 3. Register. And Jenny is logged in. Awesome, it's working. If we go to the logs here, we see that, look at that, we're doing post request to register, and we can check out the logs. And we can even go to our Postgres, Heroku, PG, PSQL, do a select star from users, and we have Jenny and Todd both registered. Awesome. Just to check that the login table is working as well, I have a login table. Nice. And then finally, to get a face, we'll grab another face. We'll view image. That's a big one. Let's see if it works nicely. I press detect. And look at that. It is working, but Jenny's entries is not updating. Let's go back to Jenny's profile and make sure that her information is correct. If I go to users, looks like entries is not being updated. If we look in the console logs, we get failed resource on the image endpoint. And if we go to the network and submit this again, we see that the image endpoint is failing. And this is something that, again, we're going to tackle in the next video. I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye.